Hey, this is Rob from jtrpodcast.com, and this is Flatline, a Fuse Aftershock game. And what that means is the story of this game continues on from this one. This is Fuse, and in Fuse, players are cooperatively placing dice on these bomb cards in order to defuse them to save the ship. And in Flatline, what's happened is you've saved the ship, you've defused all the bombs, but unfortunately, as you can see, there are some people injured and you need to try and help them. Again, this is a real-time dice placement game, but it's not as frantic as Fuse. Fuse was a full 10 minutes of real-time. This is just 1 minute chunks. So this is the board for Fuse, and a very big board it is too. You set this up by adding these huge patient cards to the board. There's 4, there's 1 in each corner, and you place them on the board like that, and they're the patients you're going to be trying to heal. You put one of these energy cubes in here. That I'll explain later what these sections do. You put one of these grids down depending on the number of players. There's one for all the various player counts. You put cubes in all the holes in these, so they're held nice and in place. And that is pretty much set up. Of course, it is a dice game, so everybody gets their own colour of dice with all these nice little symbols on. Now, for anyone who's followed the channel for a while will know, usually if I play a game solo, I do a solo playthrough and I kind of edit out the unimportant bits and just leave in the bits that introduce new rules or do something interesting. But because the way this board is, it's so big, there's quite a lot of it under the camera down here. There's, another few inches underneath missing, so I can't really do it, and I couldn't do it to get the lighting right and stuff, so I'm just going to do a brief overview instead. So how the game works is basically you follow this card, and this card has sort of the setup portions of each round here. You have the timed here, the 1 minute of real-time play, and then you have the 3 sections here that show you how to resolve those dice that you've placed in that 1 minute. So the first part is to remove a cube, and you simply take the leftmost cube off this track, and the track itself has a number on it, so you can see that this is 5. It's going to go down, then back up, then down again, and then eventually you're going to die. And because it's a 5, that tells you how many of these emergency cards you're going to draw in the next phase, which is shown on the card. So you can see there, this is the symbol for the emergency cards and the number there, and that's how many cards you draw. So you would draw 5 cards. Normally you wouldn't look yet, but basically these go in the slots on the board depending on the colour of the top. And there's 2 colours, there's blue and there is orange. When you're playing a blue card, you play it in the first open slot, so that one's blue, that one's blue. When it's orange, it goes into the orange section over here, so that one's orange. This one is blue, and this one is blue as well. So say this card wasn't here, when you play this card, it would go in this slot there, if you can see them, because the light is glaring on them. This is why I didn't want to play it solo. Next in the phase is the emergency dice phase, and that's a very simple one. You just take these 2 dice, and you roll them. And all these do is you put them on next to the number on the blue track at the side where you place the cards, along here, and any that are above the number rolled you will activate. So in this case we would activate this bad timing card. So it says any patient card triggers that have a red light and are currently connected to the life support dial activate immediately. So that would be this card here would activate, and we'd all have to use this ability, which means every player would lose a dice for the following round. As we roll the number 6 and there's nothing in the number 6 slot, nothing happens. Next up is the discussion phase, where you just have a nice chat and plan out what you're going to do. Again, I haven't played this with other players, so I'm not sure how intense or that phase is going to be, but I can imagine some people being quite adamant about how things are done in this round, so we'll see. But obviously they can't do too much because you don't know what dice you've got yet, because that is what happens at the start of the next phase with the 1 minute time section. So you've got the 1 minute timer, you use your phone if you want to, and then what players will do is roll their dice, and that is what the dice they're going to have. So there are several places you can place them. You can place them on these blue cards at the side here to try and get rid of them. You can place them on these orange cards over here, or you can place them on the patients themselves. Just to note as well, there is the app for this on the Renegade app, and it goes through all those phases and describes them all. And obviously when you press start, it's going to give you a nice little timer, and there's some volume to that. I've not turned the volume up, but that is a very good app for this kind of game. The same with Fuse, the app works really well. So that's just search the App Store for Renegade Games app. So where can you place your dice? Well, we've already said where, but how do you do it and what for? So the blue cards require this kind of dice. Any number of players can do this, so you could have a pink one on there and a blue one on there from any number of players, so maybe 2 players do that. So that's that card completed, and what that will do is at the end of the round it will remove this card, so that's what you're trying to do. The orange cards can be removed in the same way. Any number of players can play the right matching symbols onto these, and if they are cleared at the end of the round, you get to keep this in your green area, which is under the camera. It just looks the same as that area there, but green, and you can hold 4 cards, and this would let you spend this card to get a dice back. So when we lost the dice earlier from here, we could use this card to get a dice back from that, so that would be quite handy. However, if you don't clear any of these orange cards at the end of the round, they will flip over and go into this red section on the right hand side. And if you have 3 cards in this section in a 3 to 5 player game, or 4 cards in that section in a 1 or 2 player game, you automatically lose. And as we said earlier, these numbers increase and decrease on this track, so it goes 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. So maybe when you take a 2 off and the next one's going to be a 3, you could try and fill one of these in. If you put one of each dice side in this, you get this cube which goes back into the track, and then instead of maybe having this number 4 here, and when you take a dice off, you put another cube in there, so when you remove that, it's going to be 3 instead. So you just got an extra turn as well, which is very useful, as well as 1 less emergency card. Then of course there's the patient cards, and how you do these depends on the symbol at the side here. So this is 1 person must put both their dice in here. This is exactly 2 people must be able to put the dice in here, and that's why the dice come in different colours, so you know who's placed what. And in these sections here, exactly 1 person must do here and exactly 1 person must do here, but these can't be the same if they're both on the same row like that. So this symbol is more than 1 player must do it, and this one is everyone must play either a pink or orange dice here or a white and green dice here. So you've got to work together to clear these patient cards. Once everyone's placed the dice, they're then going to resolve them, and you start with these first. So any of the cards in the blue line that are have the number of dice on, they will get discarded, so you won't have to worry about those if you roll them on the emergency dice. Then you do the orange cards, and as I said before, if you complete them, they go into your green area and you can use this top ability. If you don't complete them, you go into red area and it's going to tick towards you losing the game. Then you resolve the patient cards in order, starting with the one that's pointed at by this symbol here. So if there's a line with the right amount of dice on it, so say this one, you would remove the dice, return them to the player, and that line gets covered up by one of these little markers here. If all the lines get covered up, you start with this one, you'll work your way around this way. You will then activate the ability that the marker is pointing at there. So if we cleared this one off this time, we'd get to put one of these on any other patient, and then that patient will be removed and replaced with another one. And the number of patients depends on how many players are in the game and what difficulty level you want. You then would resolve these to see if you put an extra energy cube back into your supply, which is this action here, and then the final one is just to rotate the wheel, so the wheel would spin round to the first slot of the next patient, which then changes which of these will activate. And if you're looking at a green one like these, this would be a green one, you would remove a blue card. If you got this one, that's usually a positive, red is a negative, and blanks can be ignored. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to clear these patients, all the patients in the stack plus all of them on the board, and you will win the game. If you get too many of the cards in the red area, you will lose the game. And if you take off the last energy cube, you run out of time and you lose the game. Let's go to the positives and the negatives. So the first positive goes to the components. They're awesome. The dice are really big, chunky, well printed. I do like Renegade Games dice. Although Renegade Games, if you're watching, there's dice. Where's my dice bag? Renegade Games do the best dice bags, in case you don't know. So I know you're not drawing blind out a bag like you are in Fuse and other dice games, but you know, it would have been nice to have a nice Flatline dice bag in there. Also, the board's quite nice. It's big and chunky. It's very big actually, and it slots together like these puzzle pieces. And while I've got that here, let me just explain this. This was the bit under the camera that you couldn't see. This is where you put your 4 green cards that you can use as abilities. But also this, which I forgot to mention, is that any time during a round, a player can lock a dice away to re-roll their dice. So they can only do this so many times depending on the number of players. 3 times in a 5-player game, 4 times in a 4-player game, and 5 times in a 1 to 3-player game. So you can re-roll your dice if they're not working very well. But the board's really nice. The patient tiles are big, thick, chunky tiles. They look really good. I actually quite like these. I thought these would be fiddly, but they actually slot together really well over the patients, and they look quite nice when you've got 2 or 3 on there. And the cards are very easy to read, although you'll notice I have sleeved them because I only played this game twice. Yesterday there was a bit of whiting on the edges of some of the cards already, so while the card quality is not great, the cards themselves are brilliant. Obviously these are really easy to read. The symbols, they're in different colours with different symbols. I know that Fuse, they put a lot of effort into making sure the game was colourblind friendly, and I'm sure they've done the same with this. These symbols make sense. It's all really good. Let's not forget as well, something that is a component that we don't usually give credit to is the app. And the app is really good, and it goes through all the rules and it reminds you of the order. I mean, this is good, it's functional, but you haven't got the minute timer. You'd need this and a minute timer as well. So having that incorporated into the app is a really good idea. Another positive is the rulebook, which is actually really good. It's got nice, especially the setup. That setup tells you everything. It tells you how many patients you need for the different player count, different difficulty levels. It's got loads of examples and it's bold and text and stuff. And it's got that thing that I got wrong during the demo, but you know, whatever, it's all fine. It's also got a nice little card breakdown of all the cards, so that you might not have any issues. And the symbols, while initially confusing, is actually very simple. It's not too difficult. You've got some dice placement stuff there and things like that. What I would have liked was a summary on the back of the page, something like that explained these in a little bit of detail instead of just having symbols to try and remember. So I'd like something with a bit of text that I could read. So we'll count that as the first negative, not having a summary. We'll count this as the second one. This is the bit that goes in the middle that spins. You put this together yourself, and it's already broke once. It fell out earlier when I was setting up the game to do this video. So that's a shame. And the final negative, it's not really a negative, but I'm just throwing it in there. It's not very interesting as a solo game. You have 2 sets of dice and you need to try and split them. But I think the fun is going to come from trying to work together without communicating, because there isn't the time to communicate and say, oh, I've got one of these, you put one of those there, I'll put one of these here. That's where the fun's going to come from, I think. And just having just me, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I didn't have to speak. I could just think. I would just say, okay, I need 2 dice here. I need 2 different people to put them, so I'll just put them there, easy, no problem. So I'm really looking forward to playing this with more than just me. So that is Flatline. Please like this video if you found it useful, share it to let other people know about it, and subscribe to the channel for more board game related content. You can find me on Twitter at JTR Podcast and find the blog and podcast at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, and I'll see you again soon.